name is Thomas Ian Nicholas. Of course, you might know me better as Kevin from American Pie, though the diehard fans know me as Hen Hen, Ree, Row Row, Wen, Gar Gar, Ner Ner from Rookie of the Year. But little did you know, unless you've already seen my Tin Band tour tips on Heavy Magazine, that I have a DIY punk band. Well, not really punk, I guess pop punk band.
You do indeed, mate. Thanks for joining us today, Thomas. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. You like? I think my intro pretty much just covered the whole interview.
It
So
does.
it's
We
been
can
nice
finish up
talking
now,
to
mate.
you.
I'm done. I'm going to the pub. But what we forgot to say in the intro was that you are returning to Australia with American Pie Emo Night for a very limited number of shows starting next week in Wollongong on July the 16th. And you hit Sydney and Brisbane, Melbourne. There's a heap going on there, mate. You finish in Adelaide on July the 23rd. Like, it seems like only the last week you were here. Have you even had time to unpack yet?
Well, the thing is that I worked for 10 years from 2015 to 2025 to get my first tour in Australia. So many failed attempts, but I never give up. This is retribution. So
Payback.
yeah, well, it's like retribution. It's kind of like, you know, when you work hard at something, you may not get it when you want it, but eventually, like the landslide happens. So I'm making up for lost time.
You are. I was going to say, because it's probably the whole time I've been associated with music, it's the quickest turnaround in anyone ever coming back to Australia. Like, what is it about the country? Is it the sun? Is it the surf? Is it me? What is coming back for?
Well, it's my roots on my mom's side of the family. My grandmother was born in Western Australia, my mom's mom. So I visited my family there back in 1990, and my lineage goes back even farther since Ned Kelly was my great great cousin. So that's why I've got two shows in Melbourne.
The spirit of Ned shall be with you. So, for those out there who don't know, like all three of you, it's like Thomas was one of the stars of the American Pie movie franchise, but you travel the world bringing joy and humor from that movie to fans. Like, how long have you been doing the show for in this format?
Well, I mean, I've been touring the world for about 18 years. I used to just play about 40 shows a year, but then it kind of grew to 80, and now I'm sitting well over 100 shows a year. The American Pie Emo Night started about a year ago, and it was sort of this concept of nostalgia. The first inception of it was I've done retro screenings of American Pie like I did with Movie Nerds in February in Sydney and Melbourne. But I've done like shows with my band. But like a couple years ago, my friend who's in a Blink 182 tribute act said, "Hey, why don't we combine that into one evening where we show the movie and then the Blink tribute act plays and then I do a band set." And it kind of fell apart because of lockdown. We tried to move it to like drive-in movie theaters to keep social distancing. That didn't work because Live Nation didn't want to like move it from their venues to drive-in movie theaters. So I kind of sat on it for a minute, but then there was this whole insurgence of nostalgia, and Blink started playing, stadiums, and Bowling for Soup is now playing like their biggest shows, and I was like, all right, let's just run with this and put it together. So we did, and it's just like a complete dose of nostalgia for the evening.
Yeah, it is. Like, so the format, of course, we talk about, like, it's a multi-layered format. Like, you got the emo night features a movie screening with you. There's a Q&A, there's a meet and greet, there's a DJ set, then there's a live component of it. So it's not your typical show where you just breeze in and sign a few autographs, say hello, take photos and fuck off. Like, people actually get to spend time with you and get to know you in the movie a lot more, don't they?
Yeah, it's definitely I'm there for it's a 4.5 hour gig if
Jesus.
I do all the things, the VIP meet and greet, the movie screening, the Q&A, the live band set, and the DJ set. So if you're wondering where I'll be, you'll find me because I'll be there for 4.5 hours.
And one thing I did notice last time you were here, mate, like you're a very approachable sort of bloke. Like you don't just sit in the green room and wait till your time comes and get out there and do it. Like you're out there talking with the people, you're chatting with them, you're smiling the whole fucking time. Like it's a proper interactive sort of experience, isn't it?
Well, I mean, look, this is something that I think, for those of us that, grew up with all this music, the music that's in the soundtrack of American Pie, and let's not get into like the emo police of like what qualifies as emo music. There's
Fucking
a
me.
lot of crossover stuff, and the night isn't about like, proving my musical knowledge. It's about playing the songs that we all know and love and getting that hit of nostalgia.
Yeah. And like by now, mate, you would have seen American Pie more than probably 99% of people on this planet, mate. Like, are you still finding bits of the movie or jokes in the movie that catch you off guard or that stand out to you?
I mean, obviously I'm not paying like super close attention all the time, though I remember in Brisbane last February, the sound cut out for some reason for like a good like 15 minutes and the movie was still playing and I was like, "Oh shit." So I like ran out to the front of the screen and then I started like acting out all everyone's lines for like the best that I could remember. It became like Mystery Science Theater 3000 for a good 15 minutes. People were dying. So this is the thing that I always say like not every show is perfect, but when shit like that happens, it becomes this like memorable moment. Like I just played my first show with my son on drums and he was, concerned about making mistakes. I'm like, dude, mistakes are where the magic is. That's like the thing that you remember. You don't remember a perfect live show. You remember when like something went down and you'll never forget it and you'll tell the story 150 times.
Yeah, and 99% of the time, the people out the front don't know you've made a mistake until you stop and go, oh, fuck. And they're like, you just fucked up. And you keep going through it. Nobody knows.
Yeah, well, I was just played the show. My son played with me when he's on the drums. We opened up for the Dolly Rots and Go Betty Go at the House of Blues in Anaheim last week. And Kelly from the Dolly Rots was like talking to my son after the show, and she's like, "Yeah, if you make a mistake," she always said, "If you want to hear the perfect version of the song, listen to it on the record. If you make a mistake during a live show." Most people don't even know you made a mistake, like you just said, so they don't care. And then if the people who know the music well enough know you made a mistake, they also don't care because they love you anyway.
It's true. That's so true. There's been a lot of talk made about a new American Pie movie. Can you confirm or deny any of that?
So I am going to delve into everything that I know about this because there is another layer
All
to
right.
this that no one has talked about yet. And I'm going to tell all during a live podcast at my Melbourne show at the Laundry Bar. So I did a podcast with my buddy Key with Creative Creatures, who's producing a podcast that I'm launching in August called Also Known For, where we've already interviewed a couple of people for it. Jarrett Reddick's my first guest.
Of course.
And so that'll be launching in August. But so Key is coming out. We're setting up the cameras and the mics. And that's going to be the start of the show. The opening act is a live podcast. And the main thing we're going to talk about is what the hell is going on with American Pie 5.
Fair enough. Can you give us a little snippet then so people know you're not full of shit and they tune into it?
Well, everyone has been asking me about this Facebook rumor of American Funeral. But when
Mm.
I tell you during this podcast the origin of why that rumor started, it's hilarious.
All right, yeah, I believe it in that. But just say you had to write the next American Pie movie, what would the plot line be?
I was always a big fan of John and Hayden's concept. So John and Hayden, that they wrote and directed American Reunion, the fourth American Pie movie, or as they called it in Germany, American Pie das Klassentreffen. I don't know why I like to say that, but I
It
do.
loses a bit of the pronunciation, doesn't it?
So I've just set myself off on my own tangent. No, so John and Hayden, they're also the create part of the three creators with Joshua Hield for Cobra Kai, and now they did Harold and Kumar, which they've just announced they're doing a Harold and Kumar, sequel. So John and Hayden had this concept after we did American Reunion that we were going to come back. It was going to be Jim's dad and Stifler's mom getting married. Jim would, of course, become the best man. And then Stifler would be the matron of honor. He would, of course, overtake Jim's plans, tell him he doesn't know what he's doing as the best man. We all go to Vegas, and I'm pretty sure it becomes American Pie meets The Hangover.
Yeah, right.
So
Okay.
my only hope in that storyline is that I don't spend the entire movie, trapped on a roof of Caesar's Palace as Doug.
Drunk and passed out. If you had to actually had spend one night on the piss with anyone out of the movie, who would it be? Is it who would think?
Well, you've got like I don't know. I mean, I have done that with all the guys at various points in time. Though, just like a lot of my friends in music, a lot of people have like opted to stop drinking. I think, sometimes in life, if you drink more on every particular night than all of your friends combined, you kind of use up your drink cards early. So Um, because now you got like Chris Klein, he's been sober for years. I've just seen like, Jason's decided to do the same thing. I don't think Eddie K is sort of in the drinking boat. He's like focused on raising his family. Seann would never really join us for those things. So, I mean, I still go out and party with Tara when we do like our Comic Cons and stuff. So I would say, Tara's still a lot of fun out at the whenever we do Comic Cons and I play a band show, she always comes to support the band.
Yeah, right. Good on her. Good on her. Now, speaking of bands and music, mate, we better start talking a bit of music because this is a music publication after all.
That's all
So
right. American Pie is synonymous with pop punk music. So
it is.
if
It
you
is.
talk American Pie, you are technically talking music.
We'll run with that one, mate. We'll run with that one. But after seeing you last time you were out here, mate, like you're not just another actor trying to be a musician. You're actually play and sing well enough to be a musician, and that is a compliment.
I, you know, I appreciate the compliment, and I think probably the coolest moment for me has been in the recent year. Um, I mean, I've done like some cool things. Obviously, I've done 7 albums. My last album had amazing features from Bowling for Soup, Less Than Jake, The Early November. Back in 2015, I did a song that I did with Blues Traveler and performed it with, John Popper and all that stuff. But in recent times, I've started to actually be like hired as a featured guest vocalist
Oh,
on some like some smaller projects. But the fact that anyone would even consider bringing me into their project as a guest vocalist is it's kind of like if actions speak louder than words, it's the actions that let me show that while you're saying this compliment, I'm seeing it happen in
yeah,
real time. I'm actually doing that in 2 days. So I'm flying out to New York for a couple shows in New York. But when I land, I'm going into the studio to cut a guest vocal for some friends. So
nice.
uh, yeah.
So American Pie the musical next.
Oh my God. Did anyone see the Green Day one? Was it any good?
I didn't even know there was one.
Yeah, they were on Broadway, dude. I think it was like American Idiot was like
All right,
Green Day
yeah,
the musical.
yeah,
Yeah.
just the
We
title,
we
but
knew it happened, but no one ever told us how it was. So you tell me how that one is first, and then I'll tell you whether or not we get American Pie the musical.
fair call then. So, well, what actually came first for you, acting or music?
I started acting when I was 6 years old. I didn't start playing guitar till I was about 14. So, I mean, definitely the acting came first and is still my first love, but I'm never going to choose one or the other. I'm always going to continue doing both.
Yeah, and the music you play live, like you play the sort of pop punk sort of stuff from American Pie, like is that because that's your preferred genre to play, or do you play that more because it fits in with the movie?
It started out, I mean, when I was 14, I started playing guitar during like the grunge era. So my initial album that I released in 2008 is definitely more alternative rock. Just that slower mid-tempo kind of vibe, which I know is having a bit of a resurgence. I've even seen it in Australia. Like the emo nights have kind of like oversaturated the marketplace, and now we're starting to see 90s nights,
Mm.
which I have a if anyone watching this interview runs a 90s night in Australia, you can consider having me because I was on the Creed cruise with my band, and then they wanted me to do 90s DJ nights. So I got an encore from Mark Tremonti during my 90s DJ set.
Fantastic. What did you play?
I decided for that one, instead of trying to play like all the dancey 90s stuff, for the first night, I decided to just play what I grew up listening to in the car, like all my favorite songs from my CD collection, and specifically songs that you would never imagine hearing during a DJ set.
Yeah.
And they absolutely ate it up. Everyone was singing along. Like I said, my set was 3 hours. I cut it off like right at the time, and then the stage manager runs over and he's like, can you play four more songs? I was like, sure. And then I found out the next day it was because Tremonti and his family were like in the balcony the whole time going, because like the place was packed
That's
and he
cool,
couldn't
eh?
understand like why the place was packed for me pressing play, because and why would you? If you're the lead guitarist at Creed, why would you even know what a 90s night is?
So true. And that's sort of like you mentioned you played on the cruise ship with Creed. Like you play all over the world with a lot of different bands, bro. So do people in the music industry treat you like an actor or do they treat you like a musician when you're doing that?
Um, I don't know. I think I'm always just the myself and a person, so I've never really, looked at it from the standpoint of no one's ever put my career in front of my personality.
Yeah.
I make
How
it
would
a
they?
good point to really Well, I make it a good point to connect with people, and I don't just try to connect with people that I think are going to get me things. I
Mm.
connect with anyone that will take 2 seconds out of their day to like say hello and shake my hand. So whether that's, during a meet and greet or, during our interview. I mean, look, you ended up coming out to Moe's and doing the Q&A with me
Very
there at my
impromptu.
yeah, one that was technically my first show since I was supposed to open up for Wheatus, but my flight was delayed, so I
Yeah.
missed that one. So that was technically my first show in Australia, and you were there.
I was indeed. I even got to sign the book of life.
You did, and I found Squirty's secret in there, by the way.
It did.
I
Can't go telling
I
too many
I
people
know the
that.
secret now.
It took me 20 years to get that. And you freeze in one fucking day and he tells you, and I've been nagging him for 20 years.
Well, to be fair though, I did remove the tell me, even though I've just met you, why your nickname is Squirty. For those of you that don't understand what the hell we're talking about, Squirty played bass for me at Moe's Desert Clubhouse in Gold Coast, my first show in Australia, and he will be playing bass for me again in Brisbane at the Lulu Room. And so, yeah, I said, well, just write your secret on a random page inside the Bible, the sex Bible that I'll be bringing that back with me, by the way. That will be in my checked baggage. So,
It was funny because I ran back and I read it that night because, like I said, I've been trying for years. He never told me. And when I came back out the front, everyone's like, Chris, what was it? And I had to lie and say, oh, he didn't really put it in there. He was just joking. But now everyone, of course, knows that I'm a liar and you know the truth.
so you never found it though.
I did.
Oh,
I
you did.
did. But everyone was nagging
Wait,
me. I
so
couldn't give it away.
wait, so let me ask you, was that your first time discovering it?
Yes, first time in knowing the guy for 20 years. He'd never tell me. And like I say, you
I
breathed in
thought you were
one
saying
day.
that you waited 20 years for him to tell you, but you didn't. I now I'm just putting it together that you waited 20 years, and because I got him to write it, now you know.
Yeah, you breathe in one day, and he tells you his secrets. I got married on the same day as that guy, and he still didn't tell me. But
Well, you know what, Kris? You're welcome.
I got nothing to say. So back to the music again, bro. Like you do a lot of your own originals as well, man. So tell us about them. Like you
Yeah,
perform.
man. Like I said, these the tunes on this latest album are some of I know like everyone always likes their most recent stuff, but these ones they have a different life to them. And I know recently I was playing that show with Jarrett Reddick from Bowling for Soup. We were doing a side show for WrestleMania in Vegas. And I played a couple more of the tracks from that. And Jarrett came up to me after the set. He goes, dude, you got to play more songs off that record. Like it's so good. And I mean, I have, like I said, amazing features. The title track I wrote with Jarrett, but I did that song with Less Than Jake in the early November and Aaron Jones. And there's one track in there that I didn't play for two tracks actually that I didn't play live for like 10 months. And I don't know why. I just was like, oh, they're not getting very many plays on Spotify. That probably, maybe people don't like them. But then I did the Creed cruise and they wanted us to do an entire album set for each of our sets. So
Nice.
we did the new album and those songs slapped so hard that I was like, I'm an idiot. These songs are great and I should be playing them every night.
And how do you go when you slip them into your set list during the American Pie emo night? Like, do people notice that they're your originals, or are they just swept up in the whole, like you say, nostalgia, and they don't know?
It's often been a common thing when people come to a live show, they'll hear me play some covers, and then they just kind of get lost in the vibe that we bring to the show, which, we're there to like connect and have that real like human moment. I mean, that's the beauty of live shows, right?
Yep.
You can't get that, listening to the record, and you're certainly not going to get that if you stay at home. Or, and as much as I love doing this interview with you over Zoom, I much prefer to have a beer with you in person.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do that, like I'll finish the set and inevitably someone will say, man, you played like some originals and you play the cover, you should play more originals. I really liked your original song. I'm like, dude, 70% of the set was original. Like, were you only paying attention 30% of the time? But that's the thing. They don't really know because when you write a catchy tune and it feels good, like then you're not really judging it in the moment. You're just actually living.
I'm not sure if that was actually a compliment or an insult from that bloke. Like the fact that he noticed there was an original, that he thought there was only one.
Who knows?
Who
I don't
knows?
I
We'll
don't
take it as a
judge
compliment.
compliments, Chris. I'll just take them.
Cool. I won't tell you look lovely today then. We'll finish off then, mate. Like, finish off this sentence for us, man. Like, there's going to be people out there because Australians are all, we're arseholes at the end of the day. We're good arseholes. We're arseholes. There's people are going to say, this guy was only out here last month. Why should I go and see him again now? But why should they come back and see you again? Because your shows are completely different every time.
Well, they are different. And one of the main reasons that they're different is because in every city that I go to, I find local musicians to come and back me up. So the set is never the same thing. We don't use any tracks. And so that's one vibe that makes every show completely different. The other thing is that again, you never know like what things are gonna happen during the show and what things I'm gonna say because I'm definitely an in the moment type of person. So as far as like why should you come back? Um, every show is different, so you're gonna have a good time and it's gonna be a different time.
And what's the best place for people to find out where you're playing and get tickets and shit?
Tinband.com/tour has all the tour dates listed there and every one of the pictures. It's got like the bands in town, like sort of thing, and you
Yep.
can pick your city. And then below that, like all the flyers are, live links as well. So I do all my web designing and run all my social media. I post things on social media. And if you still can't find it, just send me a DM and I'll answer you.